All right. To change the slide and nobody can see it. All right. So that's a fancy slide I had for this one. Um, yeah, just ultimately is take pride in what you do, right? And it'll show and it'll help you go through help you through the process here. Figure out. All right. The next one, this is one I didn't really learn until later on in my career, just probably the last 5, 6 years, is that where I really realized it. I may have taken some things from it, but um, ultimately, when you're getting yelled at or things are blowing up, or there's people in the stands and they're mad and they're screaming and yelling, they're not mad at you, right? They're mad at your position of authority. So they're mad at your shirts, is what is the way I'd like to say it. Some of you may have heard me say that on these calls. You are so this is another from being my 1 year here as a hockey association president is some of these parents are just nuts, right? And and they don't see things for the reality it is, right? And if you when you're there for the referees, um and they just don't they're it's like a warped sense of reality. They they get mad. They're mad at you because they feel that you're the authority figure, right? They're the same people that yell at the manager at Walmart. They're the same people that yell at the person running the Facebook group, the admin on the Facebook group. They're the same people that you get order something, you order a coffee and it's not the right order, and they'll scream and yell at somebody, right? You're the person that is holding them back, and you not and this is not everybody, these are the people that are going to yell at you on when you're umpiring a baseball game, right? And but they're not yelling at Alan McCormick, right? They have no idea who I am. I'm a face that I'm a nameless person out there, right? They don't know who I am, but I am the authority, right? And they want to yell at me because they perceive that I'm doing wrong to them, or I don't know what I'm doing, or they don't understand what the rules are. I mean, I got this, I coached golf at the high school level, which you didn't get a lot of this because golf's a little bit your average is better than your average, and it kind of makes sense. But I also coached volleyball and basketball for a while, and got yelled at, by parents after the games, and they just it's because it's a lot of times they're seeing you as you're in the way, right? You know, you want somebody else to win. Like there's a lot of perceived things, but ultimately they're not mad at you personally, right? They don't know who you are, right? They're just yelling at you because you have the black shirt on and you're on the field, right? You're wearing the mask, and that's where they're at. So if you can like you get to the point where you don't take their comments and yelling and anything personally, um, it'll be easier for you to have more fun when you're out there, right? Um, it's hard to do, right? It's hard to, yeah,
Can I interject something into it?
sure,
I come from a different sport. I refereed soccer game for many years. So part of the thing that you said when the parents start yelling and fans going crazy, that's part of the reason we have a hard time getting young referees out into the sports. So I always encourage whenever the people are yelling at, don't get mad. There may be information that you can use. So convert that into a positive thing, because you might have missed a call or whatever. Just take that information. Maybe you can improve your game so they don't yell at you much next time.
yeah, and yeah, when your ability as an umpire, right? It's not going to take away the yelling, right? But it's gonna it's going to help, right? Because you're gonna make less mistakes as you go, and you're gonna make a lot of mistakes at the beginning, and you're gonna, working freshman baseball at the start is a lot way harder to officiate than it is, is higher level baseball where you can expect what's going to happen during the game. But yeah, definitely it can give you clues, right? It's like if you, I don't know, we'll watch some plays later. I found a good video that shows it's just a bunch of major league plays where the official missed it, right? Missed the call, and they're all replay overturn type plays. But you can use it like if you make a call and the whole world is you make a call you think is routine and the whole world starts burning down, you probably miss something, right? And there's a chance that you can use that as a clue if the whole sideline's melting down. But yeah, you can see some of that, and definitely it's hard to not take it personally, but you get to the point where you use it like you said, you can use it as a learning experience, and you can become a better official because of it. This is one that took me a while, and I still struggle with. Um, but you don't have to win every argument, right? Um, when you first take the field as an umpire, right? You're in charge, right? The game, everything that happens, you control some of the rhythm of the game and how it goes, and you control when they can pitch the ball, when they can't pitch the ball, when they're in the batter's box or when they're supposed to be there. You're all the you it's easy to get on a power trip, right? And everybody's seen, if you watch a baseball game, right? You can see officials that, or any sport, right, where guys are, um, they get on a power trip. They take that power that you have, and they have to be in charge and they have to be right all the time. You see this in any profession you're in, right? You're in a meeting, I'll just use education as an example because that's the field I am in. Um, there's a dynamic between you know teachers versus administrators versus central office administrators. So any other people in education can know this, right? It's hard for teachers, especially. I was the union president, so I was on the front lines of people complaining about this. Is it's hard for an administrator to say that they're wrong, and the person that's under them. So the manager versus an employee, you know, it's hard for that. It's hard for some people to admit they're wrong. Then they have to be the expert in the room all the time, right? Then you go up to the central office where I am now. Um, you have to realize that there's layers below you, and that it's okay to be wrong. I think that's one of the things here is um, you definitely when there's an argument, it's okay to be. I think that's on it's a different topic or different part of this, but um, not using the where you are, and just making everybody else is below you and you treat them like that, right? Everybody's equal, right? And like when you have an argument that comes out, right? Sometimes you're wrong, right? And um, or I mean, trying to think like when you don't do it all the time, but if we have a pitch that's close, right? Pitches that right on the inside corner and I freeze, right? And I call the ball, right? It's going to happen, right? It's in the best of us. Everybody's gonna do that, right? If the coach at that time goes, "Hey Al, where was that pitch?" and I'll turn and say, "Hey, I missed it," and then what are they gonna do, right? Can they yell at you for missing it? And but it shows that you're human on that, right? Um, Sometimes coaches just need to vent or even perceive that they're standing up for their team by coming out and asking, coming out on you, right? You don't let them go nose to nose, screaming, yelling, right? But if they come out, you just talk them through, right? Um, Ultimately, as an umpire, if you win an argument, you don't get an award, right? Um, and it's probably not going to get better for you, right? If you're arguing with your wife or your husband, or um, if you win the fight, like, did you really win? Right? You might feel good for about 5 seconds, but um, is the is your wife happy that you won the argument? Probably not. And is it going to make your life easier? Probably not. And it's the same with a coach, right? You're ultimately there you to give an explanation, right? They want to vent a little bit, fine, let them vent a little bit. Give them an explanation. Don't go point counterpoint with them. Just answer the questions they ask you. Eventually say, hey, time to go back to the dugout, or hey, we agree to disagree, and you go back, right? Um, your body language and temperament will rub off on the angry coach, right? You're If a coach comes out hot and high, right? Just talking softly, right, can bring them back down. We do de-escalation training for teachers. And my wife is the one that trains it, right? Trains for the district she works in, and just bringing your voice down will bring them with you, right? If you match their level, that's where these things on the screen, right? That's where these wets, you match the level there. You just stay down. Like even if they say something personal, and you have to eject them, you don't have to do the big curl hop, and wave them out, right? You can just do a simple, hey, you're gone, right? That's all you need. Matching their level is just going to make it worse, right? Um, the other thing too is there's times for save the red ass moments for when you need them, right? There's a time there, and I will admit, and guys that worked with me know I'm calm 95% of the time, but there's times when it goes over the edge. Um, and there is time for raising your voice. There is time for certain things that you can do, but it shouldn't be your default mode is being the red ass. Um, Again, you'll find that balance, right? It depends on your personality, and how you in your reputation, and how with the coaches in relationship with them when those things happen. Um, the one that always pops in my head, I was working at one of the schools in Crystal Lake. Have a really good relationship with that coach. And I call a pitch that is I call a pitch that was a ball, right? It was a little bit low, and we got the 27th, 28th guy on the roster sitting in the back, sitting on top of the dugout, and start talking about bring your 9 iron out or something like that. And you know what? Like it's in the second inning, and I know if I let them get away and let them go, if I don't address it, it's gonna go right, and it's gonna keep going, and it's gonna drive me nuts, and it's gonna turn into something. So I rip my mask off, point at both of them, and say, "Hey, knock it off." And also, the coach is down at me and goes, "Hey, what the hell's going on?" And I said, "Those two idiots over there are not going to be yelling at me today about the strike zone." And he went and yelled at him, and it was done. Never heard anything again. Right? There's times for it, right? Um, but the times that are acceptable are shrinking, right? And it's becoming not acceptable as much anymore. I feel like I'm getting old. That back in my day type stories, or I feel like I'm selling that a little bit, but they're the angry umpire are getting the time for the angry umpire is getting um coming to an end, right? Um, and they want us to be cordial, and want us to be more approachable. You've heard all those things, right? But there is still, I still feel there's times you can get away with it, and it's not times where it's needed. But again, those times are getting smaller, but less are happening less. Um, we had a comment, Vince. Players get less rope than coaches. Yes. Um, players get, let's say, players get less rope than head coaches. Um, Assistant coaches don't get much rope either.
Yep.
So that kind of it feeds into this too. Um, is being polite goes a long way, right? You'll hear guys say, assistant coaches don't exist, and I'm not going to talk to them. Their job is just to point to second base, or all that stuff, right? And that's fun, joking brotherhood stuff, right? And but you know what I do when I work the bases, um, the first thing I do, as soon as the assistant coach is in the coaching box, is I go and introduce myself, put a name to the face, right, and get to know that person. Just BS for the 10 seconds, right, until we're ready to go. I will talk to that coach all day long. I will explain stuff if he asks questions to me. Um, I'm not going to be a jerk to him, right? But if he crosses the line and he starts arguing, then we shut him down, right? And but being polite with them is going to stop that angry stuff from happening, or at least slow it down a little bit. Some guys you're just not going to get through to, but um, being polite goes a long way during the game. Every time somebody hands me a baseball during the game when I'm working the plate is a thank you, right? And simple things like that. It's like, hey, thank you, those kind of things. Coach comes give me a change, and go, thank you. When you're done, say thank you, right? Um, we talked about the submitting when you mess up, right? You can only do that so much and still have your integrity as an official, right? But there's times for it, right? And sometimes you can't fix those things. But if you miss a pitch and they ask you, cordially, yeah, I mean, there's times for it. I mean, there's not, you shouldn't be, every time you miss a pitch, say, yeah, I missed that one, like, because eventually they're not going to like that either. But and the last one is letting past issues go. Um, I say this is probably the one the piece of advice I put in here I struggle with the most. Um, you just ask anybody that don't I've talked to or sat in a presentation long, enough of my presentations will know there's a certain coach that used to coach at Harper College that I still despise to this day, even though I haven't seen him in 8 years. Um, and it's still like my heart it's like now I'm getting mad about it, even though like there's no reason to, right? But um, gotta let stuff go. Like once you step on the field, anything that happened the day before is done, and you start fresh.
Yeah.
It should, once you get umpire, you'll get farther away from that stuff. But sometimes stuff happens, and you're just, or a guy's a jerk to you, and it's hard, right, to get past it. But you're eventually going to see him again. You get past like Rock just at the coaches award ceremony where Chris Avila and Jeff Collis got an award just a few weeks ago, and Rafi is there. We'll talk about Rafi when he's not here. And he had a coach last year that they were close. They still are close, right? He does stuff. Goes there preseason and pitches and all this stuff, and threw him out of a game last year. And he was fit. Like I had a lot of conversations with him about it, like how to handle it, what he should do, and like how it was he was mad, right? So now the next time he sees him, we are, you know, at this award, and you know what? Both of them, to their credit, they start talking, and it was back to normal because you let that stuff go because you build up relationship. You'll get close to guys, right? But close to coaches that have been there for a while. You'll know stuff about each other, and it's okay to do, right? Not to the point where again you got to be wary of what the perception is, right? But there's a lot of good guys out there, right? And you get to know them and and it makes Mike's life easier when you work games if you do know people. Um, but letting those situations go, you're gonna it's gonna happen, and you just move on, right? And it's hard to do, and it's hard for the coach to do, but if you were able to do it, it's going to bring them along with. You're going to set the example for them. So looks like we had some questions here.
Yeah. And Al, this is Vince. One of the things, and it was on the last slide, I was thinking in my head, it's okay to admit you're wrong or that you might be wrong, right? So by using something like, Coach, you might be right, but then explain what you saw. But if you're doing that multiple times during a game, you probably need to look internally. Like maybe you're
So
missing something or you're not focused on the right things. Like hey, that guy missed second base going from first to third. Oh, well, shit, I need to look at that. Right. So you need to listen what they're actually coming with.
Yeah, there's very, I would say, small instances where you can do it, right? I think the pitches is one, right?
Yeah, I'm not
But you
listening to
can't let it go too far, right?
Right.
But yeah, like you missed the pitch, the catcher knows you missed the pitch, the batter knows you missed the pitch. And if the coach asks me, it's like, hey man, I'm sorry I missed that one. Right. And that's
Yes.
it. That's the whole conversation, right? If it's a play at a base or something, like once a coach comes out and it's a safe out at a base, like they're gonna ask you to get help, and like that could be a can of worms by itself. That there's small instances where you can do it. It makes you look human, right? And it helps a little bit, but yeah, you can't. There's certain spots where even if I know I'm wrong, I'm not gonna tell anybody, right? I'm not gonna tell my partner until I see my
Read it.
partner in the parking lot, right? Um, it might not even tell him, right? So, so Matthew asked the question and said, if a coach comes out to argue and is raising his voice, that's an automatic ejection, right? Um, I no, it's not. You want to bring him down to your level, right? And get him down. But just raising his voice is not ejection worthy. It's really it's what he says, right? It's the context of it, or content of what he's arguing, right? Um, like leaving the swearing part. I think we talked about this with the point of emphasis, but um, if a coach comes out to me, say it's a steal second base, right? And he said, "Al, that's a horseshit call," right? I'm not going to eject him, right? But if he says, "Al, you're horseshit," he's going to get ejected. That's it's really it's personal. Profane is in there too, but like I think we talked about a couple weeks ago, profanity levels, then that's all your personal thing. I'm not a person to throw somebody out just because they swore in general, right? If they're swearing at me, or there's using it as as an adjective versus just saying the word, like there's a lot of different things there, right? So there's very like it really depends what the coach is saying, right? Or becomes just raising his voice isn't enough. His body language, his antics, all those things play into it. So I would say just because the razor voice is not an automatic ejection, it really depends on what else is going on and what is being said. Looks like some people answered that the same way. Yeah, magic words. Yeah, like it really in who's it's directed at, right? If it's personal, profane, or prolonged are the three kind of keys there of what's going to cause an ejection, right? And what is said. Um, so profane towards you, personal, right? Um, and then if they won't stop, right? You give them a chance, you ask them to go back to the dugout, you disengage and try to walk away, and they follow you. Those are the things that will lead to the ejection, right? I don't know if we talked about the steps of conflict resolution. I don't know if we got to that in any of them, but the steps you should take, as behavior from coaches. This is not so much if they come out, but yelling from the dugout, right? You should ignore, right? Ignore, acknowledge, warn, then eject. Or those are your four steps. The warning with high school baseball. If you give an official warning, it is restriction to the dugout and comes with it, and then the ejection is the last straw. You can, depending on the context of what's going on, you can jump right over. You can jump to eject, right? Depending on what happens with it. So, but you should try to go through that process. This is going to make your writing your ejection report a lot easier, right? In the second inning, the coach made a comment about my strike zone. I ignored it. Top of the second, in the bottom of the third, the coach again made a comment about about the strike zone. I turned to him and said, "Hey, Bob, I hear you. We're not going to talk about balls and strikes today, right? So that's your acknowledge, right? The next one, in the fifth inning, Bob yells again about the strike zone. Okay. I gave him an official warning and he was restricted to the dugout. In the 6th inning, Bob again was making comments and arguing about the strike zone and he was ejected. Right. That's your ejection report, right, in a nutshell. Right. So those steps, those game management things, we'll get through those as we go through more of these trainings, but that's a big one. If you put that's the biggest tool they should you should think through as like behavior amplifies, right? You ignore it when it first happens, you acknowledge it. If it happens again, you warn and eject, right? There's nuance to some of that too, depending on the situation, but that is a really good protocol to go through if you have behavior that you have to address during a game. Okay. All right. The next one is to have fun, right? Um, it's hard, like when when you first start, um, and I've talked to a lot of guys, when they first start and they come to these sessions and they come to the clinic and they're ready and they're excited to go, and then they go work a freshman B game, and it takes 3.5 hours, and parents are yelling up the whole time. It's 35 degrees. The pitcher can't throw a strike, and you're just miserable, right? You got to have fun. You got to try to have fun with this stuff, right? And you can find things to take you through a game. I I always have a goal going into the season of what um I need to work on, in my game, and I focus on those things during the game, right? It could be timing, right? Um it could be not one that I did because I always struggle with it, and I think a lot of guys too is early game blocks, right? Out part of my pregame conversation with my partner, right? If I'm working with Bill Vincent, um, one of the things I would say to him is let's get the first block. Um, it's easy to be caught off guard and your concentration levels. Um, it can be when you're working the bases can be boring when you're used to working the plates and there's not a lot of action going on, and then all of a sudden, that that pitcher goes too quickly through his motion, and you're like, oh crap, right? Um, I had I think this was in a regional game. I was at Hampshire High School. It wasn't with Hampshire wasn't the team playing though, so it must have been. But um, Glenn Pecoraro from Prairie Ridge, he's the one that said this, and it was funny when I laughed when he said it. Right? He's got a left-handed pitcher. We got a runner on first, and he is set in his position, and then he drops his hands still on the rubber, and then steps off. And I'm like, God, and I missed it. Both I was on the bases, missed the call. Right, that's mine. Like, this should be easy. I should be able to see what he does with the hands, and be focused on it. So 2 pitches later, does it again, and I'm all over it. Right, and I balk it. Come up big, send him to second base. And all Glenn said to me, he goes, "Why didn't you call the first one?" And he's the defensive coach, right? He knew I missed it, but that's part of having fun with it and focusing, right? So those rough games, those where I was going with this, those rough games that you have where there's not a lot going on and it's just mind-numbingly slow and it's cold and nobody wants to be there, is pick something out and have fun. Like, try to have fun with it. Try to work on, be a better umpire. Um, talk to your partner between those games. Like, sometimes you try not to talk much during the game, but go up there and talk and figure out something to do to try to have fun with it. Um, it's a lonely working one man games early on in your career can be lonely, and um, I would recommend just reaching out. Right, I have no problem if you send me a text message or send me an email and ask me a question, or hey, if you send me a text and say, hey, can we call and talk about this? Like, I'm more than happy to do that. We're gonna have, once these sessions are done and the season starts, we will have weekly virtual post game sessions, right? So guys that don't get a chance to work with a partner, can come in and ask questions, right? Sit here and shoot the shit for a couple hours on game nights, just so you have somebody to kind of bounce stuff off of and try to build up relationships with and have fun with this. The most fun I have is work with the guys and seeing what the differences of what they do and pick up something every time. And really the fun you'll have is the brotherhood we have with FVB or just fishing in general, is to um, share those experiences and share those war stories, and those kind of things will really make it fun for you. Make sure you're umpiring for a reason that makes you feel good, right? Um, Most guys that start, right, come in, a couple categories, um, are guys looking for extra money, right? Guys that are, they coach their kid as long as they could, or they followed their kid all the way through their career and can't do that anymore. And I want to still be part of the game, right? It's another one. And then, guys that, we got a lot of guys that start, they played, they coached, and they just, they still want to be connected in some way, right? But make sure you're doing it for a reason, for yourself. Like, I personally, like, a lot of people say, well, you do it for the kids, right? Okay, right. That's great. But for me as a dad, right? If there's a kid I'm gonna do something for, it's gonna be my own kid, right? And I don't have that part of me is not the passionate part to, help the local kids out and make them play. Because a lot of times the people that, the kids that play, um, have it pretty good, right? That play baseball, right? They have parents, a lot of, not everybody, but a lot of them have parents that are well off, and they're not hurting, right? But if that, was that's the reason that you want to umpire, make it be the reason, right? Do it for something that is beneficial to you. If it's extra money, if it's staying connected, if it's getting exercise, there's a lot easier ways to exercise. But if those are the things you want to do, make sure it's a personal thing, and you want to do it for those reasons. If you Guys that end up quitting or retiring or don't work, they don't feel that, um, passion, right? I think when they lose that passion, lose that drive of why they're umpiring, I think that's when they lose interest and they stop. Um, the last one is, don't take yourself too seriously, right? Be willing to make fun of yourself. Be willing to, um, not get worked up. It kind of goes with the other stuff where, um, the winning the arguments and being overbearing official and kind of things. If you don't take yourself seriously and you're okay with not being perfect, it makes this a lot more fun, right? And you're okay. You're okay with your partner making fun of you after the game, or you're making fun of yourself. It makes things easier. It makes things more fun when you're out there. But there's gonna be some lonely times, where you feel like you're out on an island, especially when you first start. Make sure you find a mentor or somebody that you can trust, that you can share, um, those war stories with you, and you can share those. You get advice, and you can, um, vent to if you need to, right? And like I said, there's guys on this call, that would be willing to do that. The worst people to ask to be that person for you, is Jeff Collis and Rafi Rivera, because um, they're busy, right? If you send them an email, it might not be seen for a while, right? So find a mentor that's not an assigner, and they'll be able to help you through, and be a person for it. And again, um, we'll have those virtual post game sessions we started last year, and we'll have those again. And if that's the place where you need to vent, do that. Or like I said, I get guys that send me emails all the time or text messages, and I try to help them through and do the best I can with that. So, all right, be organized. I am not. I would say I'm not the best organizational person. If I showed you a picture of my desk right now, that's why the camera is pointed up a little bit, so you can't see all the crap all over my desk. Uh, if you are an unorganized person in your life, you're going to have to fake it for being an umpire, right? You can't be late to your assignment. Okay. Being late is one of the cardinal sins of being an umpire. No matter if you're working. I mean, I used to work at Marion Central in Woodstock. They would play conference games with schools that were in towards the city and have a 4:30 start. With that 4:30 meant 5:15, right? And I was still there at 3:45, ready to go in case somebody gets there on time, right? The school being late is an acceptable part of the game, right? The umpire being late is not, and that's something that things happen, but plan for something to go wrong, right? I always shoot to be at the game an hour beforehand. If something goes wrong and takes me an extra 20 minutes for some reason, I'm still 40 minutes ahead of time, right? If something is going wrong, I should have my partner's contact information ready to go before, before I leave for the game, right? Should be, if you're working with a partner, you should communicate ahead of time and be on the same page, but you should have their information so you can call them if something's going wrong, right? If you're working by yourself, have an email for for the athletic director, athletic secretary, somebody. So if you're running late, you can communicate that information out. You're probably not going to get their phone number or the cell phone number, but you would have the email, and people in those roles check their emails on a regular basis, right? So I would, have that available in case something goes wrong and you can't be there on time and they're not frantically trying to figure out where you're at. Don't double book yourself, right? Keep your calendar up to date. Um, our website does that for you. It gives you a calendar of what you're doing, right? But if you do work for another group or another assigner or something, don't book an assignment with one and then book the assignment with somebody else at the same time, right? That's not going to do any favors on guys that are, Rafi's assigning, 8,000 games in the springtime, right? If he's got to assign one game twice, it just adds to the chaos, right? Again, if you're, have a system somehow so you don't double book yourself and you know what your schedule is and you don't commit to something you can't do, right? Baseball season, if you're planning on taking vacation during it, or say if your work schedule doesn't allow you to commit way in advance, right? Don't take games that you're not 100% sure that you can work the game. Because that will that just won't earn you any points with the signer. And if you want to work your way up, like doing these things are going to hurt that progress, right? Things come up, you think you get sick, but don't giving games back is probably giving the games back is the biggest cardinal sin with officiating. So leave it to keep it to a minimum. It shouldn't happen more than once, maybe twice a season. More than that, and your signers will lose faith in you, and that will affect your assignments, right? Because you can't be trusted. You lose that trust factor. The other thing is do your homework, right? As you work your way up, and you're working you're working. A lot of the conferences will do series, right? Like they'll play Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or and then for a series they'll play the same team will play 3 times, or they'll play Tuesday, they'll play twice. They'll play Tuesday and Thursday, home and home, and there's like series like that. Like know the teams that are in the game, right? Know which team is playing who, and that will help you be ready for things that could go wrong in that game, right? If I'm working, out in this area, right out where I live, Boylan versus Hononegah is the 2 games of the year every year in the Nick 10. If I'm lucky enough to be able to work that game, right? If I I look at where they're at in the standings, what their record is, and if it's the second game of the series, what happened in the first one, right? just a little bit information. You're not going to get a lot from the newspaper, information, or you can find stuff on social media to talk about the game, and you'll see some. You can find some of that stuff, right? But knowing that in this game, the one before it went 10 innings and it was 2-1, and there's starting pitcher got ejected in the 6th inning, and or something weird happened, right? Then there could be bad blood between the two teams, or even the bad blood from from years past. Knowing that going into the game will help you, right, and be prepared for it. You don't have to overreact to it. A lot of like some a lot of the animosity between teams sometimes is from the outside, from from parents and from perception. There's sometimes the kid, it's not so much on the kids, but being prepared for that stuff like makes life easier for you, and let's give you some information going into the game. So I know a lot of guys don't do that, but I like to do that just so I'm not caught off guard by something. This one, that don't carry your personal baggage on the field, right? Um, this is the hard part, right? You have a day, you have a hard day at work, right? You have a hard day, you argue with your wife, or something's going wrong in your life. Um, you go on the field, like use the field as a getaway from reality, right? Like for the 2 hours that you're out in the baseball field, is a place where you can let the outside stuff go and just focus on what's going on in the game. Um, it's hard to do, like especially if you have something, something wrong at work, or there's something, something's going on. Your mom is sick in the hospital, or those kind of things. You like use the baseball field as a sanctuary to get away from that stuff. Um, anything that's distracts umpiring is hard enough as it is. Um, and if your mind's not completely there, it makes it even harder, right? So do your best to let things go for the couple hours, and try not to carry that onto the field with you. So Lee made a comment on here. You can also, yeah, I should say website to get coaches' names and email addresses, in case you don't know them already. Yep. Know the coaches' names. Always call the coaches by their first name. Don't ever call them coach. They're not your coaches. So Lee, that is advice worthy of a clinician at our upcoming weekend clinic. Just, you can give that advice in your professionalism presentation on March 2nd. Um, so Matthew, which part of that? The getting the coaches' names ahead of time. So for that, you're gonna have to dig a little deeper, because only the head coach's name is on the IHSA website. But most schools use some sort of one of them. It used to be called 818, 8 to 18. Now it's like Snap, and then there's like athletics.net or something, or it used to be Athletics 2000. But there's these like scheduling platforms that they use, and they put a lot of information on there. If you dig on a high school's website, you should be able to find. You should be mostly pretty successful at finding that information. Sometimes you won't be able to, but if you don't know them ahead of time, just the first thing is that initial interaction, shake hands, and exchange names, and as soon as the coaches walk away after the pregame, write their name down. Makes it easier, because nothing's worse than having you trying to give a head coach a warning and then not knowing who his name is, or even ejecting a coach and not knowing his name for the report, right? So get to know them, and I think if you make yourself on a personal level, like I don't like if a head coach calls me blue, like it drives me nuts, right? It hasn't happened for years, summer ball and stuff, it is what it is. But high school, it's a first name basis, and coaches do this too. Like they want to know your name. They'll tell their assistant coaches what your name is, and they'll use your name during the game. There's the good coaches will do that, and you you knowing them, it makes it more personal, right? And if the more personal level you get with the coaches, the harder it is for them to be mad at you, right? They know he's a good guy by first name, and it's gonna be harder for them to go crazy, right? You know, even for the coaches that are crazy, right? And uh, it's harder to get mad at somebody you know and that you respect. So that's why a lot of those things that we do, um, we that's why a lot of things that things we're talking about today are intentional things to help you through that process. All right, this is gonna be the controversial one. All right, in high school baseball, the strike zone is that space over home plates, the top of which is at halfway between the batter's shoulders and the waistline, and the bottom being the knees when he assumes his natural batting stance. The height of the strike zone is determined by the batter's normal batting stance. It is a strike if the pitch ball passes through this zone. True or false? Put it in the comments. What do you got? Is this statement true, which is cut and paste from the rule book? Is that true or false? Come on. Nobody's gotten it right yet. All right. So the answer is most of the time. Okay. When you're learning the game, you're learning the rule book, and you're learning how to umpire. I wish I would have known at the time, right? Um, that even if so there's pitches that meet that criteria that if you call a strike, you're gonna get crucified, right? And the last bullet point on it before people start killing me in the comments, right? It doesn't matter if you like it or not, right? It's gonna happen, right? And like I've said before, and, to say the right say it now, you can be right, but nobody's gonna believe you, right? And ultimately, when you work there, it's different. It's high school baseball, right? There's an acceptable strike zone for varsity baseball, sophomore baseball, freshman A, freshman B. There's acceptable strike zone for areas of the state, Southern Illinois, Springfield area, west of Rockford. Um, I've learned this because I've worked games out. So for me, um, I work some regional. I don't work a lot of game. I don't work really any games west of Rockford in some of those smaller schools. But when I have and we have some guys in FVB that do on a regular basis, the strike zone that's acceptable there is different than what is acceptable in the Chicagoland area, right? Um, for me, um, I I know my reputation in working games in Rockford in the Nick 10 that I have a tight strike zone, right? But if I go in east, where I learned to umpire in the Naperville area when I was going to DeKalb, and in the Fox Valley when I lived up in Harvard, and that's the acceptable strike zone, right? It's a little bit tighter, it's more true to the strike zone, right? Still a little wider, right? You have to call what's acceptable. Like if you call a pitch, a curveball that touches the ground, even if it touches the zone in any way, if that ball is in the dirt and a puff of dirt pops up and you call it a strike, that pitch is not accept at the varsity level. It's not an acceptable pitch, right? So you will learn what is acceptable for the strike zone as you move up levels and the levels that you work at, right? Um, the presentation of the ball by the catcher does matter. I know some guys will say, "I'm going to call strike no matter if it goes to backstop or not." That's great, but you're going to catch crap for it, and you're going to have to be okay with the crap or adjust to what's an acceptable part of acceptable strike zone. I know this is controversial, and I know some guys are um, not agreeing with me, and that's fine, right? Just something that I've learned over the years that you got to find the acceptable zone for the what level you're working. Freshman A, freshman A B baseball, right? If you call that strike zone that's in that thing, you're gonna be there all day long, right? You're gonna expand that. It's gonna get lower. It's gonna get a little higher. You're gonna catch more pitches, right? For varsity baseball game, right? If I call just when the ball touches the corner, right? That's not enough, right? There's kids that are good, but they're not that across the board they're not that good, right? Um, you got to give a little bit on the inside and outside, right? If your strike zone is just touching the ball touching the plate, going over the plate, then you're gonna struggle, right? It's not what's acceptable. So for me, so again, you'll learn this as you go, right? As you move up levels, you'll see. Hard thing to do in umpiring is working a wide array of levels. Um, when you're working mostly softball or baseball, and then you work varsity, it's gonna be an adjustment. When you're working mostly freshman and you work some sophomore, it's gonna be an adjustment. If you're working varsity baseball and then work some college baseball, it's gonna be an adjustment, right? The definition of the strike zone is the same at all those levels, right? 8U baseball, definition of strike zone is the same thing, right? But there are acceptable things that you call at those levels, right? So varsity baseball, that's where the catcher's presentation of the ball matters, right? Freshman, you don't have a catcher that knows how to catch the ball, right? Maybe not so much, right? Yeah, so being consistent, yeah. So being consistent with your strike zone is a big deal, right? And um that's the hardest thing to do as an umpire, right? Um, but pick your zone and stick with it, right? But don't be afraid just because you miss a pitch or a pitch or two early in the game in a spot that shouldn't be a strike doesn't mean you have to keep missing them over and over. Right? There's some nuance there, but you there is that can establish what your zone is, right? I have a reputation of what my zone is, and I think a story. I don't even know if anybody even knows these guys anymore. But when I was coming up, um, one of the better crews of officials, umpires, and they were leaders in our organization. Ron Moeller and Jay Rohde. Um, they worked together, right? Ron had the tightest strike zone you'd ever see, and Jay had the biggest strike zone you ever see, right? I think it was I forget who said it. I think it might have been. I heard this I think from Don Sutherland. At one point, he said, maybe it was him, maybe it was somebody else. But anyway, so there was a coach that day he knew they were coming, right? And he would have two starting pitchers ready to go. One kid that needed the extra zone to be good, or the other kid, the kid that could hit the zone, and he'd go out in the park. He'd send a kid out in the parking lot and say which guy's getting dressed with the plate gear. And then he would have that pitcher start that day because they were so different, right? But they were consistent on what they do, right? Establish what your zone is. Make sure it meets the acceptable, the expected strike zone at the level and the place that you're working, and then be consistent with it and get at a point where you're consistent with it. Um, this is the unwritten rule part of umpiring about how you call pitches and the philosophy around it. We are not, no matter how much Major League Baseball is going towards robot umpires and robot strike zones and all that stuff, we're not there, and we're not going to be there because not going to be able to pay for it. I'm a finance director for a school district. We're never going to be able to afford robot strike zones in high school. So there's still nuance to what we do behind the plate. So um, the rule is a guide, but the acceptableness of what a strike zone is does follow you around, and you'll learn that stuff as you go. All right. I think this is the last one. Yeah. So the last part is The rules are not the most important part of umpiring, right? The best umpires I know, um, even Jeff Collis is a perfect example, right? Jeff is not a good rules umpire, right? That's why he makes up this 10.69 crap, and um, he gives a ruling, and I cringe when he starts, giving rulings on our Facebook page, and um, he's not the best rule book guy, right? One of my mentors, Bert Person, um, worked a lot of games, and he was very much a mentor to me. Not a good, not he's not a bad rules umpire, right? But that he didn't hang his hat on there, right? He Jeff Jeff Collis and Bert, as the example, are great communicators, right? And they can talk themselves out of any situation, right? That's ultimately what you need to be able to do as an umpire, right? Communication, right? Whether it's your signals, explaining calls, all that stuff, right? Make game management, handling things when they go wrong, your strike zone. Um, those are all way more important than the rule book. You can't go out there and not know anything, right? You still should have a pretty basic understanding of what's going on. Um, but you can fool people, right? Because the people you're dealing with are um, not super. I mean, not all. I mean, some of them might be, right? There's some coaches that are great rule book guys, right? But a lot of them aren't. They're there to, coach kids out of hits and pitch and become better players. And the rules are not their priority either. So you are able to fool them if you need to. If you don't know something, even if you don't know the rule, if you confidently explain it wrong, you got a chance of getting away with it, right? Um, if you can't call pitches and you're inconsistent and you're missing pitches all the time, there's nowhere to hide on that. So that's where knowing the rules and using the rules and understanding it all, it is part of it, right? And you'll get there, and it will be part of your repertoire eventually, right? But as a new umpire, the rules are the rules are there, and it's okay. It's okay if you don't understand them completely. It's okay if you misinterpret something. It's going to happen, right? It's better to work on getting better at the strike zone and being better to manage the game and better communication with the players and coaches on the field. That and your partner, that'll help you more than being great with a rule book. So yes, so some of the rules are so obscure, right? Um, that sometimes you just you there might be people on the field have never seen it, or it's a aha moment when you do finally see something and be able to recognize it and go to the vault and remember uh, what actually is supposed to be. Um, yeah, so it's again the rules will come. Sound like make an old man comment again. Back in my day when we didn't have all these videos on how to interpret things, it was harder. Like I would read. I substitute taught for a semester after I graduated from college, and I had I had a rules book, a case book. I had uh, the baseball rules differences book by Carl Childress, um, and I would carry them with me. I think I probably had some other ones in there too, but I carry them with me when I subbed, and when the kids were doing something and I was able to go on the computer and look, I would go on the officiating.com. We had a forum, discussion forum, then Umpire Empire. I would go on those websites, and it's like our Facebook page now, or a lot of the Facebook groups now. People post stuff and they give interpretations. I would look through that stuff and try to find the ruling, in the book, and um, just really like hammer this stuff in. But I ultimately did that because two guys I came up with your younger guys and my friends umpiring, the three of us, um, both went to umpire school and they had a crash course on the rules and I didn't. So I felt like an idiot in conversation. So I made myself learn the rules. Um, so, but again, now I'd already established and I was able to call pitches and I was able to do that stuff. The rules are a secondary thing. Um, there's a very, it's umpiring with the rule book versus um, with a rule book or yeah, what's it? So if you're gonna go strictly by the book or using the book as a tool as you umpire are two different things, right? Um, I've seen guys get paralyzed. They're really good rule book umpires, right? They know the rules inside and out. They can they can um, cite verse and section and title and rule number and all that stuff. Um, but it paralyzes them sometimes, right? Because there's nuance, there's situations that don't fall exactly in there, um, where you can where you have to kind of there's gray area in some of the rules and it's tough. It can be if you're so worried about being exactly by the book, then it's going to paralyze you and make you struggle to do the rest of it, right? So new guys coming through and coming up, um, it's okay to not know what a timing play is. I didn't know that until probably 10 years in, what actually that meant, or how the enforcement on a batter interference. Like, I knew I messed that up for the 5 years that I umpired. I was working varsity games and didn't know what that rule was. So you can get away with some of that stuff, right? Eventually you gotta know it and you'll get it. But year one, strike zone, game management, communication are way more important. So any questions on that? That's all I have for that presentation. But again, the theme of this is more going into the deeper ends of um, umpiring and kind of the philosophy around it and things that will help you um, that aren't written in the mechanics manual or in the rule book that will help you be better umpire. All right. Again, I think I'm going to do this again at the clinic. So if you want to see it again or tell your friends so they come to my session, I'll be presenting it at some point in the Wheaton Clinic. So, all right. So I found what. So I'm going to stop sharing there. I did find one video today that's now I got to find it. So ultimately, the videos in this are, as you see by the title, umpires that missed a call. Let me get this on a different screen so I can see the chat here. Get back to the chat here. There's a video in case you want to follow along if you can't see it on here. So the theme around these are the umpire misses the initial call is wrong, right? And they go to review and overturn it, right? Some of them are a little older where there wasn't review, case play or review, right? What we're gonna do, we're gonna watch the video, and then in a chat, the discussion we're gonna go through is why did this umpire miss the call, right? These are all major league umpires. They know how to make calls. Their judgment's great. Um, what caused them to miss the call, right? And then our takeaway is what can we do so we're not in that situation, or what can we do differently, or what they could have done differently to help it. So if you watch the video, you can put something in the chat. Otherwise, we'll kind of discuss. I'll discuss what I see what the umpire doing, or why they probably missed the call. All right, they'll show. All right, so why did that umpire miss that tag? So he's right there. Why could he not see that tag? Why did he think that was a tag when clearly it wasn't a tag? Yeah. So he is all right. So yeah, so straight line, get rotate the key goal. So this umpire is here, right? This is why so so Terry, he was in a great position for if something didn't go wrong, right? So he's in the right place if that throw is on and there's a bang bang play, right? So now you're in the position because you think it's going to be a good throw, right? And you're in this spot, you're going to make that call. What do you do when that throw gets away? Like what's our move that we should do here so we do get a good angle on this call? And there's a term called a read step, right? So when you're as this play is developing, right? You should be watching the ball, right? So you're watching the ball as it comes across, right? As soon as you see it going offline, right? This umpire, I don't know if you can see my mouse, correct? So where this umpire is, he should take a step or two this in this direction. Yep. So take a step or two to the right and try to get in. I think it was Jennifer that said that the keyhole, right? You're trying to get in to the spot where you can see the tag happen or not, right? So don't get locked in to your spot on a play like so tight that you don't can't adjust. So as soon as you see that throw getting away, step this way, take a step or two to the right, and you'll be able to get a better look at that tag that's going to happen on the back. The sound will help you on this as well. Use your sense there, like and you can see. So this one you might not be able to, but a lot of times you can see the change of direction on the glove, right? Like first baseman comes down and tries to tag, and his glove gets thrown and you kind of moved. There's a lot of different things that you can use besides seeing the tag that can help you, right? Um, but yeah, so you moving to the right is going to help you. Taking that read step or two is going to help you see that play better. But that's ultimately why he missed that call, right? We don't have a replay. Um, Even if you get help from your partner on this, the partner's not going to have a good angle either. They'll have a different look, but this is one you can get help on with your partner. So I don't know. All right, so this one is a swing and a miss. The umpire says it's a foul ball. What can help you on this? Get this call right. This one's a little tougher. Like, I guess better question, what are you looking for on to tell if this is a foul ball or a swing and a miss? Whose reactions are you? Whose reactions you're looking for? All right, so there you can see probably why is he's looking through the catcher, right? So he might not have seen, he might not have saw. I guess seen's not even a word. He didn't see what that interaction between the bat, right, and the ball. Um, So reactions, yeah, you could talk with your partner, right? Your ears are going to help you on this, right? If you hear two sounds, right? But probably here, I'm guessing is the sound of like the swing and the ball hitting the ground, like those two sounds. He could have come, he confused the ball hitting the ground from the ball hitting the bat. Ours are a little bit easier because we got metal bats out there, but um, you can read the batter's reaction, right? If you're not sure, right? If he swings and misses and it starts going to the dugout, there's a chance probably he probably did swing and miss, right? Your partner on this can be help, right? I pregame with my partner. If you um on these questionable things, right? I'm gonna make the call when I can, right? And if I'm sure on it, I'm gonna make the call. When I pregame with my partner, person on the bases, right? If if I'm on the bases and I see that the ball is a catch, right? I have a closed fist. If I can think the ball is on the ground, I'm gonna have the open hand, right? Just down at the side. My partner uses it if they need it or not, right? And then, so if I'm not sure as a home plate umpire, I'm gonna look at my partner. Like, was the catch or was a foul? Like, and if my partner knows it's a foul ball, he's gonna come up and say foul ball, right? That'll be part of the pregame with him too. Um, but even if all those things fail and you're not sure, this is the type of play where the whole world starts burning down, right? Where you make a call and you're like, oh crap, right? That's one you can go get with your partner, talk through it, and piece together something, right? Or if your partner froze or didn't make the right call, like didn't give you a signal, you can talk about here. But ultimately on this, you got to use all your senses on this, take your time on it, um, and eventually you're gonna have to make a call, right? You got a 50-50 shot of getting it right, but use some of the reactions from the catchers and the catcher and the batter and the stands, and you know like here at strike three, there's an order on first. They start yelling run, right? There's that too. So there's a lot of things that can go with it. Ultimately, in the end, like try to get it right if you can. If you can't, it kind of is what it is, right? There's only so much we can do. So like here, the catcher gets up and chasing it for the drop third strike, right? All right, so next one here. All right, so why again? So it's similar, right? Let's see. Yeah, it's a tag play. So this is pretty close to the first one, right? Got a tag play at first. Umpires on the line, which on the tag play, like this is probably the worst place you can be. Again, he's got a choice here. We don't really in a two-man system. Two-man system, we should be moving to the right, trying to get an angle for the tag. In a four-man system, you can get away. You can come over where the coach's box is, try to get a better look at it. Yeah, so again, this is a read step play where you try to get a better angle on the tag. The rest of that stuff is just a little bit of confusion. So we'll go to the next one and say there was just a little bit of redirect on the uniform there. Yes, that is 100% a really hard call. All right, so besides this being a bang bang play, right? What this umpire in this position, get him in the screen here. Is he in the right position? Is that he in the best position to make that call? Where this play ends up, right? So he's here to make the call because he thinks the first baseman is going to stretch towards the throw, right? So if we look, the throw's coming from the pitcher's mound. If that's a good throw, he's in the best position he can be, right? What got him is now instead of stretching there, the first baseman's stretching here, and he's looking through he's looking through the first baseman, right? So ultimately, he is looking through a person to be able to see the foot touch the base. So that's where it gets thrown off, right? So that's where he could actually be farther to the left where this play end up happening, and he would have a better angle at it. So if you get stuck here, he sees the throw is off. He can take a read step to try to see that. Again, he is safe by a millimeter here, right? So he's out by that. Like if you call that safe in a in one of our games in a high school game, you might think you got it right, right? So it's these, the way of how fast this is moving, how quick this is. But again, if you, so the first baseman ends up stepping towards the umpire, and that's who gets straight lined on there, and he ends up looking through the first baseman and just doesn't get a good look at it. Right. That's why on this one he ends up. I feel like that's why he missed the call. What about this one? We've all been there. All right, so you have a play like this to make sure you don't miss it, right? What are you what are you looking for? What are the what are the two things you need for an out on this play? And one big thing you need on this play. You got to see the correct. You got to see the ball, right? So he on this play, so this is where timing comes in. Um, you get excited, right? Because you saw this, right? You saw that glove between the foot and the base, and um, you saw that tag, right? You're focused so much on that play that you got it, right? You're the guy. You're gonna be. They're gonna go to replay, and you're gonna have it right, and you forget you forget to ask for the ball, right? Um, so I think he missed this. He missed this because it's an odd play. It's a guy barely off the base, and he saw that, got excited that he saw that, and then forgot about the baseball. That's ultimately what it was. He had a brain fart on it because he can see that gloves between the foot and the base, and he's got it, and he just, yeah. And then now he just doesn't see the ball on the ground. Now he does, and he makes the call. Right? It's a timing thing and it's a procedure thing. That you make sure that, hey, I got it, and that really started at the plays at the plate, right? Slide in and tag it home. You say catcher, hey, show me the ball, right? One that gives you extra time to think about it right before you make a call, um, but it also makes sure that the catcher has the ball, right? Um, never, never tell. So on a play like this, you tell a fielder, hey, show me the ball, and they do show you the ball in the glove. Never call them safe, because that's, so make sure that you have an out call. You have everything for an out, and then say, show me the ball, and then call them out. Don't say, show me the ball and call them safe, because that'd actually be pretty funny, and that probably wouldn't go for that. So, but always make sure the ball is there if you're going to make an out call, and that you can ask for them to show you the ball, right? Locate the ball before you make the call. How about this one? This one, this one's more not why he missed the call. He missed the call because he didn't know who had the ball, right? He got a little lost on who caught the ball and who, because you got two guys covering. This is a good crew communication. This is pre-replay, right? So he's not sure. He just makes a call because he needs to make a call. But look, his partners come in, right? They get communication there, and they change the call and they make it quick, right? So this umpire just got lost, right? So he thinks the pitcher has it, but actually the second baseman has it. So that this is a little different, but this is a good crew communication to get that call right. All right, so we got a so on this one, So I guess what's the rule on this one, right? So if a ball, say it is tipped, it's kind of hard to tell there, right? Say it's tipped, goes in the catcher's glove. At what point would the catcher be out if this was strike three? Does he have to have voluntary release on this one? Or would this just be an out? Yeah, I guess at what point is an out and what point would be a foul ball? Is there enough there? I guess we can vote up or down. Who has an out? Who has a foul ball? No control. Yeah, I have an out all day on this one. Um, you don't need it to. He doesn't need to hold it all day, right? He has control of the ball. You know, don't the transition doesn't calls matter so much. He caught it. He's out, right? This is another one. These calls here that did it hit the ground or did the catcher catch it are some of are really hard from behind home plate, right? Get to the next one. Wait on the replay. So this is one where that crew communication, right? You can tell he's not sure. He's trying to figure it out, right? By leaning over and go, because if he knew right away, he comes out and calls it, right? Um, so now you go. So on this one, this is where the open hand for a ball on the ground, closed fist as a partner, um, that the ball is caught. That's where I would use my partner.
School will wake you up at 7.
No.
Say it again.
7:40.
Sorry.
So ultimately, this was, I don't know what the count was. I don't know if it shows. Yeah, it's strike three. So it should have been a drop third strike and the runner can run. I don't think he hit a foul ball. I don't know why he'd be arguing. Maybe he thought he hit a foul ball. Yeah, so it could have been, I guess maybe it could have been a foul ball. Or it's a foul tip strike three. So I don't think he touched it. Hey no. There was one on here I want to get to. We'll end on this one. This is Angel Hernandez play. We'll end on this one. All right. So why did Angel miss this call? I was waiting that for because he sucks. He's still, even though he could be the worst major league umpire and still be better than all of us combined. So yeah, I would say, yeah, Dan, I agree. Like the play blew up on him, right? And he's trying to get in a spot where he can see it better. Um, so on this, he's in a good spot if that tag happens between the bag, like in the front side of the base, right? But when that plate didn't develop that way, it's really not the best spot to see. This is kind of most of these plays at second base are going to be swipe tag type plays and not crash plays. So the same philosophy at home plate. Like when I started umpiring, I was taught to be first baseline extended for plays at the plate, right? And then pretty quickly after that, it was third baseline extended, and then the wedge, those kind of things, right? All that stuff that we talk about now. On a crash play, so what the reasoning behind first baseline extended? Because when I started, there's more crash type plays where there's a not so much a collision, but it was that's how Major League did it because there's more contact allowed, and there was more allowed contact to happen, and those things, right? So being in this spot, same philosophy, right? He's looking there. It's a crash play because the tag's going to come down. Everything's going to hit right before the base and calling out. This turns into he's sliding over the base, and it turns into kind of more of a swipe tag situation, right? He's swiping down, trying to tag him, right? So on a swipe tag, just like a steal a second, you want to be over here, so you can see where the runner's at, when the glove is coming through. So he ends up rotating and trying to do a read step and get in the right spot to be in the right place for the play, and the play blows up on him, right? The play, he puts him in a self in this place where he's straight line and blocked out. So you'd actually want to be, so he was in a better spot before he took those read steps and moved over. So he could, where he was there, just as he comes out of the screen, watch right before it changes. Like he's in a better spot there than he ends up being when he makes the call. Right? Because he's moving there trying to get in a spot. And actually, because the way the play develops, he gets in a worse spot. So that's why in this one he'd be better off over here, and he would have saw the play better for more of a first base, swipe tag position, or for the third baseline extended, like we take it, kind of philosophy of home plate. So I put that link in there. There's another 6 minutes of calls, but it's pretty good. You go through and you can see, and it's like, hey, why? You break it down, slow it down. You can say, hey, why did they miss this call? Why are the best umpires in the world missing these calls, right? And there's the explanation for it. They're out of position. The play blows up on him. It's going to happen to us too, right? And he's really close to this play too. That's why we say you shouldn't. If you get too close to it, it blows up and you can't see the entire picture, right? That's why being back a ways a little bit, and just in our 2-man system or 1-man system is going to get us into a spot where we're not able to get that close to the play, or even if we could, we don't want to be because there's other responsibilities. But this is a good video to go through, watch the rest of it, and kind of see what why these plays are being missed by these very good umpires. So that's all I have for this week. Again, if you haven't registered yet for the clinic, please do so as soon as you can, just so we get some numbers on there. Otherwise, we will see you next week. I'll stay on the call until if you have questions. I'll stay here until all of them are answered. So have a good week, guys, and we'll see you next Tuesday. Yes, the code for the clinic is FVB 2024. That is the code to use for free registration. Yep. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Hey Al,
Hey,
what do you need to wear for the clinic? Sorry if that was
nothing.
before, but
Bring your mask with. There'll be a plate work session they should go through.
okay.
But just comfortable clothes, whatever you want to wear, doesn't matter.
Okay, so whatever, just bring your mask.
Yeah, I won't. There's not a lot of on-field stuff. It's mostly classroom, but then there is a station on learning how to work the plate and philosophy and technique and stuff. But for that, you just need a mask. You don't need to wear the full gear. There won't be pitchers throwing live pitches there.
Okay. All right, understood.
All right, so
And then I bought one of those starter kits. Is that something maybe I shouldn't do, or
it depends on what you got, right? Some of those kits are decent, right? Like we actually bought some to put into the garage sale this year.
okay?
So some of those are good. It depends which one you got, right?
Yeah,
It's got to have. Usually those shin guards are pretty good. The ball bag, it depends on what level, how much you paid for it. You know,
Yeah.
what the ball bags are good or not, or if they're plastic, then it's not good, right?
yeah, right, right.
If they're like regular material, like kind of felt, not felt, but regular material, like
Yeah,
it's nicer, then you'll be fine. Some of those kits are actually gotten better over the years, so you should be okay.
yeah. It was one of those $100 ones. I forget the brand it was, but
The part that will get you and is one, the bars will be really thin on the mask, where if you take something hard to it, then
Yeah.
the mask will bend, right? Or
Oh, okay.
concussion type stuff. And but some of that stuff's okay. Like you wear your mask right, then you can get away with that stuff, right?
Yeah,
We'll talk about that at the clinic, but your mask could be really loose. It'll be when it hits the ball, mask could spin around on your ear type thing.
Yeah.
But we'll talk about that stuff later on. And then chest protector, um, you're fine in most of the spots, but some of those they just have these caps on the shoulder, and there's a seam, and if you get a ball in that seam, you're gonna wish you spent more money on your chest protector.
yeah,
It's
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
be
yeah.
like my first year, my last game of the fall ball, right? I had a chest protector. I wore it all year and it was fine, right? You get some
Yeah.
and it stung a little bit, but I was 18 years old. I didn't care, right? My last game of fall, I got hit in the left shoulder, right? My hand went numb for the rest of the game,
Oh,
and I could
shit.
not hold my indicator, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of how much pain you want to be in, right?
Yeah.
Kind of how much pain versus how much pain in your wallet versus pain in your shoulders, right?
Right. I mean, I know I definitely want to upgrade at some point, but I didn't know if like these kits were good for like maybe a 1 year risk kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, like it really goes to. I mean, the first thing I think the two most important pieces of equipment you got, like for protection, besides your cup, is your face mask, right, and your chest protector. Those things
Okay.
that stuff will give you confidence, as you go. You can get
Yeah.
away with it, right? There's guys. Yeah, you used to work with a guy you didn't wear chest protector,
Jesus.
and he would hit you. And every time you saw him, he'd show all the bruises he had. It's like, Jim, if you just bought a goddamn chest protector, you wouldn't have those bruises show off, right?
Right. Wear a thicker shirt at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when he
Okay.
worked a big game, he had like one that was like, a 1/4 inch thick foam.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you can get away with it. It's just, you might get stingers, right? Where the ball, it hurt. If it hits you in the right spot, it's going to hurt, right?
Yeah.
If it hits you right in the middle of the pad, you're fine. But if it hits you
Right.
on those seams, that's when you wish you had more protection. So
Yeah. It's got like those bicep things. I don't know if that's something I need to use, but
yeah, I
maybe
mean,
that's
it
what you're
doesn't
talking
doesn't
about.
hurt. Working younger kid, freshman sophomore games, you want all the protection you can get. So
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
one spot you can
Okay.
go cheaper on is the shin guards,
Okay.
right? You don't get hit in the shin a lot, and it's not a direct shot most of the time. So you that's one place you can go a little cheaper is the shin guards. So
Okay. All right. And definitely on the shoes with the plates, or can I maybe get away with
yeah,
that?
like you
Yeah.
get a shot that like there's guys that broke toes, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you want to
Yeah.
get the ones with the steel toe in them.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Yeah, where can you get those? The steel toes.
you go to purchase officials or like honigs.com. The umpire or officiating supply companies have those. New Balance makes them. Sometimes you can find it on New Balance's website or at a New Balance store. They can order them for you, but you can order them directly from purchase officials or umpire. Umpatire is another one.
Tire.
Umpire.
Umpatire. Jerry
Yeah.
Davis Sports is another one.
So right
Yeah.
now, those shoes are hard to get in certain sizes because everybody's buying them. So I'm not sure how many I have in a garage sale, but definitely want to get those for your feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna bypass
This is my
it, but I
third
appreciate
year.
it.
Yeah, it's my third year. I haven't I've just been wearing some black shoes, so
You're lucky. You're a lucky
I'll
one,
get
man.
those. Yeah. The other question I have real quick is, are we going to cover up like lineups and stuff like that a little bit? You know, I've been coaching for almost 15 years, and you know, the flex, the DP, the legal, illegal substitutions and stuff like that.
Yeah, we don't
Do you
deal
guys
with
do anything on
we,
that?
we don't deal with flex or DPs. That's mainly softball.
Yeah.
But
But yeah, we
Um,
could definitely do that. I mean, these are open to whatever everybody wants to see. I think Tim, didn't you have a presentation on
I
lineups?
have a lineup presentation. There's actually a couple of neat ones that you could find on YouTube.
Okay, you want to do that one, Tim, or you want to send me it and I can cover it next week?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll have to dig it out.
Okay. But yeah, we could cover whatever you want. Like I have a lot of presentations we've given over the years or given at clinics that we can cover. Just yeah, we try to that's one, you won't do a lot of lineups, in underclass baseball, right?
Okay.
A lot of times the coaches just keep it amongst themselves. Some will give you a lineup card. You can ask for one if you want to practice. But probably the first lineup card I ever did was the first varsity game I ever worked, which is not a good time to learn that stuff. But guys have systems, there's things. But yeah, we'll find that, or I'll throw something together we can cover that next week.
Okay. Thanks.
Yep. All right. Any other questions, guys?
Thanks again.
Yep. Thanks. Hey, Tim, hang on a second.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Al.
Yep. Thanks, guys. So sat in that presentation today for that ref reps.
Yeah.
It is freaking amazing. Like
Yeah.
this like it's a game changer. Like their training material, their training platform is
Mhm.
amazing. Like
How did that all come together?
so they started a company. They're out of Indiana, and they partnered with NFHS and all these state organizations, and like the NBA. I think they partner with them too on just doing training. So it is a um, online platform with training that's all built into it, and they like he showed me the module for baseball,
Mhm.
and they'll have a video, and it's a video they made, and it's a steal a second, right? And it's a point of view from the base umpire. They have a camera on his hat or whatever, watching the play. Where it happens, they click. Was it safe or out? Right? You give the answer, and then it goes into a video presentation that goes into a video slideshow with a person explaining why it was an out or what you need to do in that play, what to watch for, and it's all point of view. They have drone footage of the play, so you can look at
Holy
it from a
cow.
different angle, and they go through and they market to schools. So we're going to offer it as officiating class and as PE credit, and it's a self-paced. These kids just sit in there, and they say they can do 3 sports in the semester, and
Oh wow.
it's $45 for the class, and at the end they get a voucher to be if they pass the class, they get a voucher from them for the IHSA to get a license in that sport for that season for free.
So as mentors, how do we get paired up with these guys to,
So I'm
work
going to ask
with
the
them?
guy. So like my group, like my school, right? I can help with some of that. But if we get a list of the schools that are doing this, I think
Mhm.
one thing we could do, and we'd have to look at budgetary wise, but like if we would say to the schools like, hey, if a kid gets a softball or baseball license through this class, they can join our organization for free for the first year.
Mhm.
And if they, oh, I should probably stop this video.